Yes, Yngwie. How are you?
How you
Good
doing?
morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for taking the time. You know, we always appreciate being able to chat with you about a new record when it drops. And my goodness, Parabellum. Talk about intense. Wow, what a record.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I always thought with War to End All Wars that was going to be the most intense. That was like Yngwie waking up in a bad mood, and, and you're going to get the most intense. But with Parabellum, I feel like it goes one step more in the intense. Even with Sea of Tranquility, I'm thinking I'm going to get a nice relaxed 8 minutes here, and then by the end I'm like, whoa, I need to lie down. Was this always the intention with Parabellum, for it to be super intense?
Thank you. I mean, that's kind of cool in a way, because I always found like the hardest thing to do is to capture real passion and real intensity in the studio, because you can get really clinical, and also there's no audience and stuff like this, and you become like really critical about everything. So I try to like keep it so that it actually has some sort of energy, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going for anyway.
Well, that's absolutely what comes across. That's for sure. What did you use on this? Is this? I take it this is the classic Fender Strat Marshall pairing, or was it? Yeah, of course. Anything?
I used this is the Yngwie Malmsteen model, but this particular one is like an old one. It's maybe from 2010 or something.
Okay.
But it's exactly the same. It's got the Seymour Duncans, and then of course you have the new ones, the Maple Cap ones, the 30th anniversary ones. Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Beautiful.
And I if I turn this camera around, you'll see 62 Marshalls. 62 Marshalls heads. Right.
So what is your sort of go-to, like when it comes to, right, it's time to sit down and write? Are you one of these people that's, right, I'm going to work from 9 to 5 and I'm going to work on the record?
Fuck no.
No, inspiration's got to hit, yeah.
It is actually, well, when I hired an engineer, after, when you get to a point where you got so much, specifics, you hire an engineer, and then it's a schedule. You have to do it like that. You can't, I don't want to do it, whatever, So, but when it comes to writing, it has to happen spontaneously, and it does. All of this shit, like all this stuff on the record was. That's what I felt so good about this album, because I kept only things that felt were very pure. That's what the word, but I don't know which word to use. Pure, passionate. I didn't leave anything that was, because I had about 100 ideas, and there's 10. Because I had a year in the studio, which is I can't even remember when I did that last. I don't think never. So it was a little bit strange in that sense, but I learned how to time to use the time, because if you use the time the wrong way, it can get stale.
Sure.
You can't, if you do over and over, takes over and over, which I don't like doing that. I like to keep it so it's pretty, one take. If it feels good, you leave it and you listen to it like next day or something, because you listen to it right away, you hear, oh, something wrong there, and you want to do it again. And if you do it again, it never gets better, because I improvise everything.
Of course.
Everything's improvised. It's not written solos. Of course, there's written parts, like that's written, but even the written parts have embellishment. You just stay within the scale, and you do what, okay, that fits in. We might want to use this take, so on. What was the beauty with this one was it had Pro Tools here. When I first built the studio, it was reel-to-reel Studers,
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because I built studio in 95. And most people didn't have studios then, And if they had a little Pro Tools rig, it was just kind of like a demo thing.
Sure.
So, I don't know if you can see, it's got huge desk here and stuff. I got all outboard gear. I got like the tube gear. I got that, what's that called? TLA, Summit Audio 1176. I got the Neve. I got all that stuff that the guitar goes, and the vocals too. The vocals go through tube stuff. I have DBX tube. for the vocals, and I use Universal Audio. What's it called? The interface.
Sure. The
So
aux.
it's huh?
Is it the aux? Universal Audio aux?
It's called Apollo.
Ah, okay. Well, they're all good, aren't they?
Well, this one, before I used this, I used another one for years that I liked a lot, but then my engineer said they should get this one because I guess it comes with all the other outboard gear, you know.
Sure.
You know, at the big scale. But so I was gonna say, so the guitar is mic'd downstairs. This is my control room, and this house is like it's an old colonial mansion kind of thing, and it used to be servants living like in a section. I just ripped that out, and that's what I call a room of doom. That's all the Marshall cabinets are.
Yeah.
And they stayed in volume all the way up. And here the amps are sitting here. You can't see them now, but there's shitloads of amps there. I'm using the YGM 100 because that thing is incredible. And that goes to, it's mic downstairs, and it goes into Neve, and it goes into the 1176, and then it goes into there. So it's still kind of organic in that sense, you know.
Obviously, you can hear that when you listen to the record. You can hear the passion, the intensity. You've mentioned that you've touched on the improvisation elements, which you know is obviously something that you associate so much with you. What I would love to know is, from your perspective, what is the key to great improvisation?
Wow, that's deep, man. Because I started so long ago with this. It's when I think back, it's crazy. You know, like I'm talking about in the 70s, a long time ago. And once I found my sort of like my journey's direction, I was so fanatical about it. I made sure that I would just never really practice, but almost perform every time I picked up the guitar. I wouldn't accept like, oh, I'm gonna do. Never practice. It's when I pick up the guitar, it should be like a performance. Really strange attitude, but that's what I did. And very early on, I learned the scales. You know, like I learned what notes belongs where. So if you are in C sharp minor, you know there's certain notes you don't play, and this is not something you think about. It's not a thought process. It's just unwritten rule, basically. And then you have to be clever to do combinations of the notes and slurs and arpeggios and pedals and stuff like this. And it almost sounds like a written part, almost, but it's not. The whole reason I started doing this is because I got tired of the, which is cool too.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, that's really cool. I love that stuff. But I felt like, wow, if I'm in A, I'm here. If I'm in B, I'm here. If I'm in G, I'm here. There's gotta be, I'm talking about like 9 years old, 8, 9 years old. I figured it's gotta be something different than that. So it's gotta be a starting point. Let's say, that's C sharp minor, right? But it goes that way. Doesn't go, doesn't do the box thing. And that basically, growing up with the classical environment, and listening to Bach and Vivaldi and Paganini, of course, that's what kind of got me into doing arpeggios and stuff like this. The violin was always very influential on me. And I was thinking those terms. So for me, improvisation is almost like composition. It's almost like composition, but it comes and goes, and then it's gone, you know? So if you can capture one of those mini compositions on tape or this, that's my goal, you know, for a solo. So when I'm on stage, I have to do that again, a different journey, but it's come and gone, you know. It's really weird.
It's so interesting to you mention the captured on tape aspect of it, because obviously, me being a big fan for over 25 years, you know, I know, you know, the story about seeing Hendrix on the news and all that sort of stuff. And I've heard all that stuff. But what I would love to know is, do you remember the first time you heard yourself recorded?
I do. And the reason for this was I was really lucky because my uncle was the R&D head of R&D for Philips. You know what Philips is?
Of course.
Yeah, they invented CD technology. They invented a lot of things that Sony just take later. And he would have tape recorders everywhere, and he would also have hi-fi systems. And he built a recording studio in the 1950s, long before I was born, that he just wanted to do it because he wanted to do it. So when I was really young, I just got to go in there and do whatever I wanted. He said, hey, you go do whatever you want, you know? So yeah, I started pretty much right away. Pretty much right away I started. My brother was a drummer too, so we used to like make a lot of racket, you know, together. And it was probably the same time as I started, because I wanted to hear it right away, you know. So probably sometime when I was 7.
Wow, 7.
Yes.
And I mean, can you remember the impact that it had on there? Because for some people, you know, when they hear themselves play or sing or anything like that, it can be a jarring effect. But with others, it's inspirational. Which way was it for you?
What I've found from that point on being extremely useful for me was because I realized that when I hear it back, I hear it completely differently than when I play it. So I could be kind of like critiquing it and improving it. And I said, that's good. That's not good. And I would just, every day I would record it. And eventually I became like a fanatic about that. If I didn't record, I've considered I wasn't playing. It was that important to me. I was always recording. And so from that, I learned a lot. And I got to tell you a really funny story too. Way back in like I don't know, 78 or something like that, there was still 2 tape speeds for cassettes. One was 7.2, one was 7.3 or something like this. It was a very, very small difference. And I had one cassette deck in the house, one cassette deck in the studio. And I would always record myself. And then in the morning, I would listen to it before I went back to the studio. And I would go, wow, fuck, that was pretty good last night. And what it was played back slightly, and not so much as was too much, but it was like, I would do like, and then all of a sudden, they would be faster and faster and faster and cleaner and cleaner and faster and cleaner and cleaner. And it was so funny because I realized this, oh, fuck, that's hilarious. You know, because I had this other philosophy that was that I was not going to accept being subpar ever. You know, I was going to be better than before. And I was going to do, I certainly, for sure, wouldn't accept, oh, I could play that yesterday, but I can't play it today. So I was very fanatical about it. It's a very strange thing, you know. But
well, it's totally not, because that's the thing, as a guitar player, you know, myself and all guitar players, that's what you want. You want to be able to wake up in the morning, you can pick it up and you can do your best whenever it's called upon. And improvisation, of course, is the ultimate with that, because you want to be in any scenario, just like you are right now. You pick it up, you can play the parts. You're not going, give me 5 minutes to warm up. You know, I mean, I've seen you jet lagged, all sorts, nothing affects. So you clearly, that's always been your goal. What challenges you now, you know, so many years into your career? What keeps that fire going?
Well, I mean, the thing is that I think I'm challenged. I feel a challenge every time I play, because it's something that I really don't want to. I have to feel that was good, you know. And I can't just, it's very difficult to explain, because once you have all the notes already kind of programmed, then you don't think about them anymore. It's just a combination of things that will come out spontaneously, like a gift almost. Those are the magic moments that I cherish them, really. And if I get that on tape, then I'm super happy, you know. And that's the beauty with Pro Tools, because, for instance, I could come up with something that, oh, this should be this middle section here. We could do a little diminished run here, whatever. You know, that's kind of cool. It builds up to a solo, or builds out of a solo, or whatever. So, oh, fuck, that's so cool. Let's put it in the beginning. Click, done. You know, that to me is like, I know people take that for granted now, but I started long time ago when there's no way of doing this. I remember, if not until not that long ago, I would do it in a way where I'll write a song, get it done, rehearse it with a band, go in the studio, put the drums down and bass and rhythm guitars, then start on the vocals and leads and stuff. I go, shit, and I wish I put that 16 bars there, No, there was no way, because I was always lock machines together, something called Simplicone. You couldn't cut the tape or nothing.
Sure.
I mean, you couldn't do it. So to me, that was always that, and also feeling like, you were pressed for time all the time, So to have this place is beautiful. I've had it 25 years now, but still, I could never go back to go recording in another studio. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, you want to be able to, when inspiration strikes, you can go and do it. And I'm imagining that there's thousands of unheard pieces of music that are in the vault then. Yeah, is that correct?
There is. They might not be that great, but they're there. I would put down anything that happens, boom. I would call it like a 3-weight clutch, or I would call it whatever. The Addams Family. When you see the Addams Family movie, there was just any name, And I'll go, what the fuck's that? And I'll listen. Oh, it's pretty good.
That's amazing. Something that I've noticed on this cycle, where you've been sort of leading up to give us little teases of Parabellum, and of course I've been lucky enough to hear the record. It's absolutely fantastic, and when the fans get to hear it, I'm sure the reaction is going to be the same. One thing I've noticed is you've been much more active on social media. You've been dropping these little videos, comments, you've been interacting with the fans. Is this something you're really getting a kick out of on this cycle? Yeah,
I think it's, you gotta roll with it. You know what I mean?
You're doing Cameo now, all of that stuff. You're giving the fans what they want,
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I got to see a clip where you posted where you were playing this incredible 1959 Gibson Les Paul. Now, of course, you're very familiar with some great vintage instruments. One thing I'd love to know is what's the deal with that 59, and also if you can tell me. Tell us about some great things you've picked up on the road over the years, where you picked up some of these vintage instruments.
I did for years. I did that. I mean, if I switch the camera around, there's a lot of stuff here. I don't do it anymore. I don't buy them anymore. I spend money on other things like the Ferraris and stuff. But I've had, some of the interesting ones was that was a 56 Stratocaster. I actually got it from a fan back in the 80s. And the guy had already scalloped it. Oh, the fan had already scalloped the neck. So I just basically took, I think I traded him another guitar on mine or something. I can't remember. It's just like 85 or something. I just stuck it on one of the bodies that I already had my pickups in. And I played it next night. And it became one of my well-known ones, the one that's like candy apple red one.
Oh, of course, yeah, and so many of the music videos.
The red body was not original. There was just the neck. So now that neck is actually sitting on a 56 body, a blonde one. So so I have a lot of guitars and they're great, but I don't find myself playing them really. I mean, I just kind of like I always pick these up, Do you subscribe to that thing about the mojo in some of these old instruments, or is it just for you? No, there's obviously a mojo, but it's kind of someone else's mojo though.
Oh, okay.
The greatest thing you can do is put your own mojo on the guitar. You got to play the shit out of it. That's the key. Well, like my duck guitar, for instance, it looks like somebody dragging behind a truck, and it's got a lot of mojo, but I don't play that either. In fact,
Why don't you pick up the duck?
I don't know. I don't know. I do. Right here.
That's the one. I guess it says a lot though about how Fender make the signature models. They make them so good that you don't need to pick up an old instrument.
The funny thing is that Fender now probably is better than ever been. It was in tune, I bought it. It's a little scratchy. It's old.
Love it,
yeah.
Love it. I mean, that's the thing, you know, when you make so many classic records and performances with a guitar, it becomes synonymous. It's really interesting to hear you talk about that Candy Apple Red one, though, because I think there was always the rumor that you had got that old guitar and scalped the neck yourself, but you actually changed the neck. That's amazing to find out.
That one, but many others.
Oh, sure.
A couple of extremely rare guitars. I have a 1967 maple cap, which basically doesn't exist. It officially doesn't exist. It's a prototype guitar, because from 1959 to 1968, they made only Rosa guitars. So people started asking them to make maple necks, but they didn't have those machines anymore with my one-piece maple. So they decided just to glue a maple fingerboard on the maple neck, which is no skunk on it. So from 60, you know, the Woodstock guitar, I have a couple of those original ones here. And my new 30th anniversary guitar is like that, maple caps, beautiful. But so the prototype one they made, one only, is 67. I have that guitar, and I scalloped it. That's pretty crazy. And I have a 59 scalloped, and I got a, let's see. Yeah. So no, for a long time, I really didn't. I only played vintage guitars. I didn't play anything else.
Of course.
Which I don't find. I said something in another interview. I've been doing a lot of interviews. I said I don't really want to get dependent on one guitar, because it's a bad feeling, you know. A, you don't feel like you can play the other ones. B, if it goes missing.
Plus, Yngwie, you love to throw them across the stage as well. So
yeah,
but poor Kenny's got to catch them, you know. But
sometimes they don't.
Say that again.
Sometimes they don't catch them.
Yeah, I've seen that. What is the punishment for someone who doesn't catch one of your guitars?
Their eternal embarrassment, basically, is their punishment. You know. Yeah. I used to have one guy. I never forget. It was in Michigan. I think I was playing with Vi that night. I'm not sure. And I did a backflip on the thing, and it was a big wooden stage. And he's fumbled it, basically like we say in football, American football. And boom, you can hear the guitarist just make the whole stage reverberate. And it was on YouTube. And people called me from Fender, like all my friends at custom shop. Hey man, fuck's going on out there, man? Do you need me to come out, help you out? What's going on? They're all freaking out. The guitar nothing happened to it. They're indestructible, these things.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
And of course, you know, the necks are so consistent, you could just swap one out, I guess, you know. You know, something...
nothing happened. It was still in tune. Crazy.
You know what, Yngwie? Obviously, it gets attached to you so much, this quote, and you know, probably annoys you after a while. But the more is more thing. I mean, yeah. But something that I wanted to ask you in relation to that is, with more is more, have you ever been tempted to experiment with the extended range guitars, like the 7-string and 8-string, with that in mind?
Actually, no. Because the only thing that I would like, if it was any possibility, would be higher notes, not lower. If you can have an A string on the high A, that would be awesome. Do even more violin stuff, but you can't. They would just snap off. Do you know the backstory to that more is more thing? You know what it is?
Let me think. Oh, it's got to be when you were doing the thing with Mike Varney and he told you.
No, it wasn't Mike Varney. It was the Ted McKenna, Andy Keith, something, Andy McKenna or something, a producer for Alcatraz. He said, oh, that was great for a solo. I said, let's do one more take, a little slower. You remember, less is more. And I was fresh off the boat from Sweden, you know. It's like, I thought he said like mistake, you know, he made a mistake. You mean more is more? Less is more. I didn't know the term. Yeah.
Well, that's it.
You know, and it's true. More is more.
Well, more is more on Parabellum, that's for sure. It's absolutely exactly what you want from this. Earlier on, you were talking about some of your inspirations, and of course, it brings to mind for me that Inspiration, the record, is 25 years old, which is quite hard to believe. Would there ever be
recording in here?
No, really?
Yes, that was my introduction. That's how I introduced the studio.
Oh wow! So could there ever be a part 2?
It kind of was Blue Lightning.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, actually, I was.
It was kind of like just a goofy thing to do. It wasn't something that wasn't very serious.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think to get. Obviously, for guys that have seen you live, we know that you'll drop in the odd cover every now and then, and they become these bootlegs go around. So it was amazing to hear, a collection like that. But I've often thought, because so much of your inspiration is classical, I wondered if you'd ever see an Inspiration record that was purely classical.
Now we're talking. That's not a bad idea. I might think about that. Thank you.
Can I have a credit, Yngwie? Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear that. I mean, the list of narrowing it down is going to be tough for you. Just off the top of your head, what would be 3 tracks that would 100% go in there?
Oh my God, that's so hard to do. From the very beginning, what I did with classical music, I know how to play some note for note, but I want to more absorb the way they were thinking in their way of composing, and performing. So I didn't want to just recite, because that's why I didn't want to end up being a classical musician, because I didn't want to just recite stuff. I want to write stuff that was very much similar, That's not similar, but that was what intrigued me, the whole. The counterpoints and the inverted notes in bass and stuff, all the stuff in composition that you hear. Call Philipp Emanuel Bach, one of his sons. You should hear some flute concertos. He's insane. It's like, oh my God, it's like Mozart on acid. It's so good, crazy. So yeah, so I still listen to that stuff. It makes me inspired. I have to think about that.
Okay. Well, I hope we get to see it. I know you've not got an awful lot of time, Yngwie, but something I always like when I speak to you to try and ask you something I don't think you've been asked before. And I wonder if you could put your mind back to the show in St. Petersburg, well, Leningrad at the time, because there's something really interesting from my perspective on that. And it's the fact that is months and months before the Moscow Peace Festival, which of course gets all the sort of famous thing before USSR split up and all of that.
2 years before.
Yep. It's way before. How did that come to be? And
that came to be, and I can tell you that my father joined the army when he was 13 years old in the National Guard when he was a little kid, and he was always in the military. In Sweden, you have to join the military when you're 18, but then you leave, but he never did. So then he worked in the UN forces. He was in the Green Berets. He was, he's still alive. And then he decided to apply for basically doing what James Bond did. Oh. Believe it or not, being a spy, learn how to speak the fluent Russian and go to Soviet Union and infiltrate them as a businessman or something. Because what happened was that back then it was the Soviet Union, Finland, and then Baltic Sea, Sweden, then Norway. Norway is NATO, and Finland was part of the kind of under thumb of Soviet Union. So Sweden would always be a very strategic point in a mobilization to go to NATO land Norway. So they would come in. They would have U-boats go in Swedish waters. They would have truck drivers go on the ferries and go and map out the roadworks in Sweden. Really crazy stuff. No one really knows about this stuff. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this. Anyways, so in 1986, some numbskull at Polygram Records sold the rights of Trilogy to Melodia, the only communist state-owned record label in official music label in Soviet Union, for $3,000.
What?
And it's 14 million copies. Trilogy, you can see, you can find, look it up. Soviet pressing of Trilogy, official. It's all 40 million copies. So my dad got friendly with an opera singer in Moscow or somewhere like that, and they're sitting there drinking, and he goes, Leonard, my father, hey Leonard, you must hear this record. This record is amazing. And I shows it to my dad, and my dad goes, yeah, that's my son. Ha ha. You're a funny man. No. I said, no, it is. He goes, ugh. And that's what started it. And it got hold of my management. And we did 20 shows in 2 cities. So when somebody plays Wembley 2 nights, that's like, wow, you know. Yeah. I did 11 nights in Moscow in a hockey stadium and 9 nights in Leningrad. It was like going to work every day. Fucking stadium full. It was crazy. It was crazy. And, you know, this was during the height of the Cold War. This was not perestroika. This was not glasnost. This was during the height of the Cold War. And we had KGB up our ass all day long. It was crazy. I was there for 2 months.
See, I've always wanted to know the story because I knew there had to be a story because you did it first. You did it first. That
was behind the Iron Curtain. No one knew what the fuck was going on over there. Mm. So, yeah, it was my dad did it.
Amazing. With what your knowledge is there, have you got an opinion on this? I don't know whether you've heard this story about the potential that the CIA wrote Wind of Change by the Scorpions. Did you ever hear that rumor?
What's that?
That the CIA were supposedly, it's just a rumor, but I think it's interesting that they potentially wrote Wind of Change for Scorpions.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Do you think that could be a possibility?
It sounds like Rudolph to me, though.
Oh, okay, right.
I mean, the chords.
Yeah,
it sounds like Rudolph song, like Wheel in the Sky or something. But you know, you never know. You never know these things. Yeah, it could.
Amazing. Yngwie, just before I let you go, last final thing. What do you do on your days off? Like, do you like to watch movies? Like, what's on your Netflix queue?
I love movies. Movies is like my favorite thing. Oh my God, I can't remember now. I like the older like sci-fi stuff, like Alien, and you know that the whole Alien thing is my favorite. I think, you know, like some people are Star Wars crazy. I'm like that with Alien. I saw the first one in the theater, so it freaked me out. It was really good. I mean, I like a lot of movies. Drama, you know, whatever, you know, for sure. I love to mess around with my cars. Obviously, taking my family out and, you know, hanging out with them. I don't have that much time off.
Well, that's it. You're always working on something, and hopefully we get to see you play live in the UK again when things open up. Are there any plans? Oh, you've got live shows coming up in the US, haven't you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, I'll have all the links to in the description for all the live shows coming up. I bet you can't wait to get back on stage after this time away.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a show in Serbia in June.
Oh, okay. Wow. There's
a festival in Serbia I'm doing June 26th.
And you got plans to get back to the UK, yeah?
Of course. It's not. I'm not making the rules here. You know, if it was me, I would have been doing it a long time ago.
Okay.
You know, so.
Well, we'll be looking out for that. Yngwie, absolute pleasure to chat with you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time today, and we'll see you when you're back in the UK.
You got it, bro.
Thank
you. All the best. Bye.